It's preparing. And we are live.
Good morning and welcome to this May 20th edition of the Washington State LGBTQ Commission. I'm Marcia Botzer, she and her co-chair. And again, welcome. We will begin with a roll call of commissioners. Staff, please.
No, I'm okay. Co-chair Botzer.
Present.
Co-chair Vienna is going to be late. Vice Chair Kelly Baroga.
Present.
Secretary Figueroa.
Present.
Commissioner Archer. Commissioner Best.
Present.
Commissioner Erickson is excused. Commissioner Hillmeyer.
Present.
Commissioner Landers.
Present.
Commissioner Maroon.
Present.
Commissioner Molina.
Present.
And then Commissioners Ross, Sawyer, and Sojourner are excused.
Thank you. We have a quorum and we are called to order. We have a land acknowledgement that we would like to present at this time.
Thank you, Co-Chair Botzer. Manny Santiago here, use any pronouns, and I serve the people of Washington as the director of the Washington State LGBTQ Commission. And we have our commission's land acknowledgement, and even though I do have Indigenous heritage, I do not claim Indigenous identity, and I always want to make sure that people understand that. So I share these land acknowledgements as the collective of the commission, recognizing our partners and siblings in Indigenous communities in Washington. The Washington State LGBTQ Commission recognizes that we live and work in stolen lands. These lands, water, mountains, skies, and everything within them have been inhabited since time immemorial by the descendants of the 29 federally recognized tribes, as well as the many not recognized tribal communities in the state of Washington. The members of the commission come from occupied lands of all 29 federally recognized tribes in the state. We recognize the history of colonization, genocide, subjugation, and enslavement experienced by Indigenous people in these lands and throughout the continent. It is our commitment as a state agency to recognize tribal sovereignty, to work alongside tribal partners for the well-being of our communities, to celebrate the achievements of the many Indigenous communities among us, and to dismantle the ongoing legacy of settled colonialism, as well as the exclusion and erasure of Indigenous people that continues today. And may it be so.
Thank you very much. We have legislative advisors here at the commission and want to acknowledge who they are. They are Senator Claire Wilson from the 30th District, State Representative Nicole Macri from the 43rd District, and State Representative Skylar Root from the 16th District. Thank you for your service here. At this point, we do, of course, have a little bit of housekeeping to do. So once again, staff, if you would.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't muted. So chat will be used to troubleshoot and collect questions and comments. Commissioners will not be responding to chat. Strict adherence to schedule to stay on time. Members of the public, please mute and turn off your camera. No disruptive behavior, please. Assume positive intent on the part of commissioners, moderators, participants, and staff. Do not use transphobic, homo, lesbo, biphobic language, misogynist, xenophobic, racist, anti-Black, ableist, ageist, or foul language during your interactions. Name calling or insults are not allowed.
Thank you so very much. We will now have a look at our March 18th minutes. Commissioners have those minutes, and if you have a correction or addition, please bring it forward, and then we will need a motion to accept the minutes. Are there any corrections or additions? All right. Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the March 18th minutes?
I move to accept the minutes as written.
I second.
Thank you, commissioners. And we will take the roll call vote, please.
Okay, real quick, who was it that made the motion?
Everett Maroon, I made the motion. Alvaro made the second.
Okay, and so roll call, Commissioner Best,
Aye.
Commissioner Hillmeyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Landers,
Aye.
Commissioner Maroon,
Aye.
Commissioner Molina,
Aye.
Secretary Figueroa,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kelly Baroga,
Aye.
and Co-Chair Botzer.
Aye. The minutes passed. Thanks very much. We're moving right along. And the next step today is to hear reports from our staff and committee. And the first one up on our list is to hear from our executive director with their report.
Good morning, everyone. Again, excited to be gathered here just around the corner of Pride Month. And before I delve into some of the highlights from my report, which was distributed to all of you and published on our website, I wanted to make a quick announcement about two very important things that are happening in June for our community. And you're hearing this. Well, you're the second group that hears this because I was so excited that I shared this with the RAIN BRG yesterday. But we have a date for the flag raising ceremony on the Capitol campus. It's going to be Tuesday, June 21st at 12:15. You will be receiving the official, notification, and our legislative advisors, as well as the rest of the legislature, will be receiving the official invitation, as well as the justice of the Supreme Court. But I wanted to share with you the date and the time. And then the second announcement with that is that, as well, it'll be soon in the office, we are raising a new, improved, updated Pride flag. If you see in my background, you see the traditional flag, which is important. It has significance to our community, and we honor the history of that flag and what it means, and its significance. And we have acquired the new Progress flag with the intersex community symbol as well. And that is the flag that we will be raising, that the governor will be raising on the Capitol campus on June 21st. And I'm super excited because I need to confirm this, but it might be the first, we might be the first state that raises that flag. There might be jurisdictions that have done it, but I have to confirm that, so don't take my word for it. But it
Manny,
does look...
I'm so excited to hear that, and I'm so excited to see the Progress flag flown over our wonderful state. Thank you for working on that.
Yeah, and we're waiting for it. Tracy just got confirmation from UPS that they tried to deliver it, but our space has locks in it. So we'll make sure that we do have the flag. The flag is already here in Washington, in Olympia somewhere. We just need to make sure that it's in our office. But yes, and Commissioner Maroon, we are also very excited. And when I shared this with the BRG yesterday, members of the intersex community let us know how amazing it is that we are recognizing them and honoring them. So that was very powerful to hear, that this small update is actually having already an impact on our community. So yes, I'm super excited, as you can tell from my smile. I cannot stop smiling. So we know that we share with you, that we had June 6th as a possible date, but working with the governor's team and making sure that there's time, that we don't take away from other celebrations and other acknowledgements was important. And the 21st is the date that best works for everybody. We recognize that it's also Juneteenth holiday weekend, so we might not be able to call for a retreat as we wanted to do, but you'll hear more about what the plans are. We certainly can welcome you to Olympia and work on reimbursements for travel if you as a commissioner choose to join us, and Commissioner Best, if you're still available to be one of the speakers, we will make sure that we have you here on the 21st instead of the 6th, as we had originally talked to you about. So with all that, I'll share some highlights from my report. Let me see here. So we had 2 events during this past couple of months. We had the Spokane County Town Hall, and it was a very small, it was only 1 family who showed up for the town hall, but Commissioner Figueroa was there with us, and we had the opportunity to share with them, to hear from them. And then we had a meeting later on, Commissioner and the staff, just to go over some of the priorities and some of the things that are happening on that side of the state. We are still in touch with the family, and some of the ideas that they brought to the table, they're really great ideas that they share with us as a family, and we want to make sure that we follow up on those. So, and also to hear it was good to hear some of the challenges that the community has. We also co-hosted once again the statewide executive directors gathering, which brings people from all fields who are in a role of executive director. It doesn't have to be paid role, but someone that has those responsibilities. And oftentimes, we don't have the space to gather as leaders and just have fun. And the commission has partnered with Washington nonprofits to put this together every 6 months or so. So that was also a good thing that happened these past few months. I attended the gala for Spokane Pride. That was really cool because, again, I was in Spokane sharing with the community and getting to hear some of their concerns. I was the keynote speaker for that event, so it was really good to be there. And we also had some conversations with our partners in Idaho and the Panhandle, so to hear what is happening there and to have some understanding of the reality of that side of the state and our partners there in Idaho. That was really, really great. We continue, reaching out to the community and meeting with community members, especially those that reach out to us because they are facing some challenges in their jurisdictions. School boards usually are having a really hard time understanding that they need to protect LGBTQ students. So that's been interesting to hear. But we continue working with our partners at the Education Ombuds Office, as well as other community partners to make sure that our kids are protected here. I have also met with some of my peers on the cabinet to help them as they prepare to implement the equity and inclusion plans for the state. Just to summarize, when the Office of Equity was established, one of the roles of the Office of Equity is to ensure that every agency has an equity plan. And I'm not going to go into details about the plan, but the plan is public. You can access that through the Equity Office website. And each one of these agencies is looking into, how to implement those plans within their agencies and reaching out to the Ethnic and Women's and LGBTQ Commission to get feedback and support. We also worked on giving feedback to a curriculum for the Department of Licensing that is updating their curriculum to train real estate brokers in Washington for the license, and it includes the curriculum includes a portion that deals with sexual orientation and gender identity. And originally that was a very quick, very, we need to have this ready by whenever. And then when we started giving feedback, the department made it, put a stop to the process and made a more conscious process of reviewing, reaching out to the community. And I believe that Commissioner Best was able to attend one or two of the feedback sessions, as well as other community members that we have, that we know of, as well as the RAIN BRG, taking the time to review the curriculum and making sure that that the needs of the LGBTQ community were present there. With all that, I was also part of several, and still am part of several hiring committees for some of the agencies that are looking from, the director to assistant secretaries of some of the state agencies. So that's been good to have the opportunity to share the needs and the priorities of the LGBTQ Commission and the community at large. So when these people are hired, they know that we are partners in the work and not, as an afterthought. So that's important. And other than that, we continue, offering advice and support to other agencies and offering feedback on policies and things that other agencies are working on. I can go on and on about many other things, but I'll leave it there. And if anyone has a specific question about the report that I sent out or things that you have heard or seen, feel free to ask.
Thank you. Very thorough report as usual. Are there any questions? All right. Thank you very much. So we'll continue on. We have next up our Economic and Business Development Committee report.
Thank you, Co-Chair Botzer. I would say that the substance of the report was actually reported on in the previous meeting, but it was just too soon from our events to be included in the written record. So I have no new information to report. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So our Vulnerable Communities Committee report is next, please.
Thank you. So just one thing really is that with all of the anti-LGBTQ bills being passed throughout the country, our committee has been looking into the possibility of having some kind of bill or legislation here that would allow for protections from other states. So that might involve not recognizing or not following a subpoena from another state seeking information about a person or a person's child who traveled to the state for gender affirming care, not recognizing another state that terminates the parental rights or contact of a child with the child's parent or legal guardian on the basis of the parent or legal guardian consenting to gender affirming care, not recognizing out-of-state arrest or search warrants relating to the same kind of thing, or even not allowing extradition of a person in Washington state to another state to potentially face criminal charges relating to a child receiving gender affirming care. These trans refuge bills are being considered in 19 states around the country. And we've just kind of begun trying to figure out where to take this, and learned that Senator Elias is already researching and pursuing a potential bill like this. And it's something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on and find ways to be involved in.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before, was there a question or a?
Yeah, Co-Chair Botzer, I just have an update actually, because when the Vulnerable Communities Committee met last to talk about these issues and how to approach it, Obviously, we didn't have anything from the governor's policy office yet, but as of right now, the policy office is also doing a little bit of research on what gaps need to be, filled when it comes to protections. So what Commissioner Hillmeyer spoke. So we recognize that Washington has more extensive protections than other states, and there might be some of these bills that contain things that are already protected in Washington. So so we need to make sure that the bills that are presented actually address the gaps and not just blank statements that are already protected, right? So that doesn't mean that we are not doing something. What I want to make sure that people understand is that we are trying to figure out what the gaps are so we can close them and make sure that people who come to Washington seeking protections because their respective states don't have those protections are, safe when they come here. So so that's where we are right now. The policy office of the governor's office is also working on identifying where the gaps are. So whenever the legislature is ready to move forward, we're also going to be ready to move forward with them.
Thank you. And before we hear from legislative advisors, I'll mention that an executive committee, a report for executive committee. The main thing I want to report there is that the committee spent a great deal of time with an assistant attorney general listening to the updated public meeting rules. We were able to ask questions and hear answers and to study that carefully. So that was a major from executive. We of course met regularly as we're required to do and discussed issues such as pride and the flag raising that we've just heard the good news details about now. Prepared the public meeting agenda, contributed a lot of continuing work on our meeting and committees process, which we'll be discussing later in this meeting. And I have no other material on that. So are there any questions or comments on any of the reports? Great, okay. Well, let's see. Our legislative advisors want to invite them to have an opportunity to address us for a few minutes. I see that Senator Wilson is with us. Senator, would you like to start?
I would just love to, because this past conversation is top of mind. So really appreciative that you brought it up. And I do want to kind of share what I know and hopefully how we can coordinate efforts so that we're not diluting and we're headed in the right direction. And we're headed together, because I think there's power in the work that we can do together. And we're lucky right now to be in the state of Washington, where people need to know first and foremost, we're safe here now. But that doesn't mean that we will be safe. So that is, critically important as we move forward. I've been involved in a number of different rallies and events that have happened since the leak of things related to Roe v. Wade, which has brought people out finally about speaking up. 4 years ago, there were fears. And here we are 4 years forward, and those fears are now a living reality for many of our sisters, brothers, and our siblings. So critically important as we move forward. I will say we met yesterday as a Democratic caucus to talk, and not just about this, but this obviously was part of our conversation, and the importance of the coordinated efforts as we move forward, and whether it's legislation or whether it's constitutional amendments, whatever it is, not only protecting what we're doing here in our state, but for anyone who may be coming into our state or who may be seeking services. And so, Toby, what you bring up is, critically important, and was able to also lift up the particular needs of our LGBTQAI+ community, and that this is a very slippery slope as we move forward, knowing what we know about what we've seen about anti-trans legislation across the nation. So just a critical, important piece of work. So what I will say from the Senate side is that Senator Dinger and Senator Cleveland, being chairs of the Justice and also the Healthcare Committee, are really taking on the lead of coordinating the efforts within the Senate to make sure that legislation we're doing we're working together on. And as Manny, you so well put, isn't just fruitless as far as a message, but actually is going to do the work we need it to do. And so would just want to offer that opportunity that as we work as a commission, that you continue to share with me or work with me or find out what's going on. The same thing, Manny is always engaged in that, but that also as an LGBTQ caucus across chambers, that will also be a piece of work. But I think the most important thing is the coordinated effort so that we don't have individual small pieces of legislation, whether it's an omnibus bill or whatever it is, that we continue to focus and protect. So just want you to know it is top of mind for myself and for many other individuals that, you know, are on the floor of the Senate and will continue to be a voice and a vote to make sure that our state is a safe place for all. So just want to put out that. But also, you know, things are moving in other directions that aren't necessarily in support of our community either. And Manny, I think you brought up school boards, which are, you know, 296 school districts across the state of Washington. All of them have school boards that are locally controlled and elected. And so that is the largest elected body of officials in the state is school boards. And you've probably heard and seen and probably watched yourself school board meetings, whether it's related to masks, that was what was. And right now, I think it's more about banning books and it's about implementation of curricula. So there is some work that's happening right now that I am involved in, especially sitting on as Vice Chair of Early Learning K-12, thinking about what fidelity and implementation of legislation looks like. So whether it's comprehensive sex ed and making sure it's inclusive of protected classes and making sure that all of our students across the state have what they need and get what they need, and no one is excluding or making decisions about what they will and what they won't share with young people. And also had some recent issues around the since time immemorial curricula and finding that some districts have not yet even done the implementation of a curricula that was implemented a number of years ago, and young students are hearing things that should not be because they're not real. And so trying to figure out how it is you work with school boards if they don't know they're doing something that isn't necessarily accurate or appropriate, how it is that we support them in that. But when you have a blatant response and a refusal, if you will, to do what's legislated to do, what is and how is and where are the steps and what does that look like? And so that's happening right now as I think forward about how it is you never want to make people do things because you should be doing it because it's the right thing to do. But we're running into situations where people are making choices for other people, and we've got to kind of think about what that might look like and how it is that you, when you have to, you might make a school district do what they 5 people or 7 people don't want them to do, if that makes sense. Same, so, you know, a lot of conversation around that, around making sure districts know around the laws around curricula adoption and the legislation around that, and what and how you vet and what tools you're using to make sure it's appropriate. So I think I'll stop there, but this is all top of mind as we think about our vulnerable populations and our young people and being their whole selves and true selves as they walk this world. And public education is the only place, you know, the only thing that keeps you away from that door is you're not yet 5 years old. So, and that's critically important. So we'll continue to fight for that and continue to do the work we need to do to make sure young people are getting what they need.
Thank you so much, Senator. Actually, we are a bit 5 minutes to be exact ahead of our schedule for break, and we could take these 5 minutes, or rather, our new business is next. We could take these 5 minutes if anyone has any questions or want to continue this discussion at all. Is there any commissioner that wishes to speak at this point?
Co-Chair Watser, I have one more thing, because we have talked about, making sure that the laws, legislation that is passed and actions have, are not only symbolic. And we also know that symbolisms help and send a message. So we are also working with the governor's office in having a process to identify what actions, symbolic actions, need to be taken when other states pass legislation that might affect their LGBTQ residents. So I wanted to share that with you first, because it didn't make it into my report, because the conversation happened after I sent out the report, but wanted to make sure that we are taking every action to make sure that people in the United States know that Washington will continue to be a safe, mostly safe place for LGBTQ people, starting with Washingtonians certainly, and extending that to people who might come from other places seeking protections.
Thank you. If there's no other comment or conversation, we can certainly apply this extra few minutes to our new business discussion. All right, okay, we'll move on to that. So new business, restructuring of our meetings, that whole discussion that we have been considering for quite a while, but one in particular, this is a question about how we might create a proposal among ourselves about how we will appoint commissioners to other committees or other events. What this means is, for example, and I'll invite our executive director to say a few words on this, but we have been asked for one of our commissioners to join a thing called the America 250 Committee. And we haven't developed a process for how we might do that. So the discussion would be largely around that. Manny, would you care, please, to just say a word or two more about that?
I think that you skipped one new business. The restructuring meetings is first, and then the discussion on commissioners' work.
I had advanced that, my apologies. Not unwittingly though, because I think this might take us some time, but I will certainly return to the proper order here. So the proposal to adopt changes to the committee's structure, we will need a vote on this, but we need to open discussion on that. You know that we have been working on this for a good long time, and we have come up with a number of, well, 3 to be exact, proposals. And the process that we would like to use here is for all the commissioners who have been reading and thinking and talking about this, to recognize the 3 options that have been developed. We'll take a poll to see which of those rises to the top, and a vote on that item to be accepted. The main thing, though, first is discussion on these issues. And we want to turn to those. We have them, and there are 3, and they were sent to us recently in a very clear outline format. So proposals 1, 2, and 3, please turn to those and let us begin discussion on these as our options. And I would invite any commissioner to begin the conversation.
Quick, Tracy, if you, I can share the screen with the proposal so the commissioners can have a discussion and have them available. Just giving you a heads up.
go ahead and share. I removed the PowerPoint.
And if you look in the first paragraph of each one, in the first few lines, you get the essentials and then the details that follow. So what we want to do is look at these three and have a discussion about them, and then present an opportunity for us to vote on these three. And if out of that vote comes a clear answer, the one that we want, we can move to a motion on that. If it doesn't, we'll continue discussion. So the floor is open.
Commissioner Maroon has his hand up.
Thank you. I cannot see all the faces. I appreciate that very much. Commissioner Maroon, please go ahead.
Thank you, Co-Chair Botzer. My initial question here, I'm sure I'll wind up saying a lot in this discussion. I'll try not to monopolize. But my initial question is, when we first came together at our inaugural meeting, we set in, we had a charter that we put together, and we had coordination about committees. Can we get a little bit of background on what we would need to change in those documents, or if we were to adopt any of these proposals? And can we get a little bit more context on why we feel the need to change the committee structure at this time? Thank you.
I can do that. Excuse me. So we did consult with our Assistant Attorney General based on the current operating agreements, which people commonly think of as, how you call that? Oh my God, now I'm blanking.
Charter, yeah, right.
Charter, yeah. So the operating agreements allow us to create committees, but do not name the committees that need to be created. And that was intentional to give us some flexibility on how we structure year by year or month by month, however we wanted to create committees, right? So it gives us the guidelines on how the committees would work, but it doesn't name how many committees or which committees would the commission create. And that gives us flexibility to play with committee structure however we want. We did run this by our Attorney General. She gave us the green light in that sense, right? For that, to have a different structure for committees. So there's that. In terms of the proposals, the three ideas were also shared with the Attorney General to make sure that they were complying with the charter, with the operating agreements, and with the act that created the commission, and that they complied with public records, public meetings as well, especially in light of the changes to the public meetings. So in the very quick summary of committee work is that if the committee meets to discuss something, but is not taking an action on behalf of the commission, that committee can meet at any time. It can be during a public meeting, or it can be a not public meeting of that committee. So as long as the committee itself is not making a governing decision, they can meet in any format. So because that's one of the options, not meet during the public meetings and meet on some other time. If they are meeting during the public meeting, again, it doesn't have to be that part, that committee meeting doesn't have to be public if they are not taking a decision. So those ideas and the proposals that you have in front of you were already vetted by our Attorney General. She does want to see whatever final decision we make today, just to give a final review, especially if there are changes. In terms of the background to how we ended up here and how we ended up with these three proposals, one of the main concerns was how to keep the commissioners engaged. How do we make sure that the people who serve on the commission, are doing the work in the sense of not just showing up for the commission meetings, which is important, but also use their skills and their interests and their expertise in the areas that they want to, to work. And so far, when the commission was established with 15 commissioners, we understood that it was possible to have a bunch of different committees that would be very specialized in the, in the issues that they discussed, and the expertise of the commissioners will be best utilized. However, as things progress, we noticed that, there were too many meetings there. Because of too many meetings and the responsibilities of the commissioners, who do have a life outside of the commission, it would be very difficult for many of them to engage. There was also the challenge of recruiting committee members from the community, especially when every committee meets at a different time and different date. Sometimes it's confusing for a person who wants to engage in more than one committee. So there were many challenges in getting the commissioners engaged with committee work. As a result, we polled all of you who were serving on the committee, on the commission early this year, on what are the challenges and what are some ideas that you have that you can share with the executive committee on how to address those challenges. Based on that, all those challenges and ideas were brought back to the commission. We had a little bit of discussion as a whole for the commission, and then a committee was formed consistent of the 4 members of the executive committee, Commissioner Sojourner and Commissioner Sawyer. We had a meeting where we discussed the different ideas and then came to the clarification of these are the 3 main ideas that people have talked about that make sense. And those were the ideas that were presented to the Attorney General for vetting. And then those are the ideas that are presented to you today. Now, that doesn't mean that these are the only 3 ideas. These were the ones that were very clear from the feedback that we got. They are just in writing now. And you have the opportunity, to review them, to have a discussion. If none of them work, you can always go back to the drawing board. That's no problem. But if one of them feels like it makes sense right now, you can adopt one of them, even with changes if you need to. So it doesn't affect the charter. It doesn't affect the operating agreements as of now. And you can move ahead with any of these ideas or with something else, because right now it doesn't affect the charter. So we wouldn't need to make any changes to that document. I hope that all that helps as you enter into the discussion.
Thank you. It was very thorough. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other questions? Comments, concerns? Hearing none.
Come on, gang.
Falk, this is so not like you.
No.
There are 3 ideas, and
There are 3 ideas. I only have my experience. I feel like I was very participatory and engaged on several different committees, and then I didn't know when they were anymore. I'd show up, there wasn't a group there. There were times I missed one, and so things did kind of disassemble for me. I do firmly believe that the majority of the work that I've done for this commission has been via the committees or some invited, engagement, like with the HIV working group for the HCA medication question. So I'm fine really with any of these proposals. I just think the devil's in the details, and I have many questions about like how much work will be involved in how often are we going to be setting up ad hoc committees and setting the parameters for them and then needing to extend it and all that. Like, I don't want us to have to get stuck in that either. I'm shutting up now. I see Matt Landers.
Good questions all. And that's what we're here today to talk about. And I do see that Commissioner Landers has a hand up. I can see that. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super appreciative of the work that the committee put into this as one of the co-facilitators of one of the committees that is meeting regularly. I think that the work in the Economic Development Committee could move into any one of these formats without too much trouble. So that's not going to disrupt the work we're doing necessarily. I personally like proposals 1 and 3 over option number 2. My main question with proposal number 1, the one that has all the committees meeting, actually, I guess that's 1 and 2, with all committees meeting the same date and time, presuming we have a number of committees, how logistically feasible is it for staff to run 5, 6, 3 simultaneous meetings?
I see
Tracy has her hand up.
Okay. If we're running simultaneous meetings, I will not be able to take notes for you. That's just a given. I can't split myself. We will be able to set up breakout rooms. So everybody would come into a meeting like this and then be split up into breakout rooms so that they can have their committee meeting. If we have 4 committees meeting and one committee doesn't have anybody able to take notes that day, I can jump into that meeting. It would just mean that there's no one in the lobby area to move people unless Manny does that. Now during the summer we'll have interns and they might be able to help with things, but that's very short term. So that's what we're looking at if we're having simultaneous meetings.
The idea would be to have the commission, the members of the committees be responsible for creating the agendas and taking the notes and making sure that the notes are on the shared drive. So it will be relying on the members of the committee, both the commissioners that may chair and the community members that are invited to be part of the committee or the committees to take on those responsibilities. Yes. And I see that Senator Wilson has her hand up.
Do a lot of kind of zooming grouping and breaking away and zooming grouping. And have y'all ever used like Jamboard or anything where actually, so Jamboards where you could actually have breakouts, and then the Jamboard is almost like a whiteboard, but you can do sticky notes and people could actually, as you're sitting and having conversation, you wouldn't have to take notes. You could actually do it electronically on the Jamboard, and then all that information is there then to take and to turn into notes, if you will. So Tracy would not be in 5 different rooms and at 5 at the same time, but the Jamboard is it's very user friendly, and you can identify your sticky note by color or whatever, so people know where the input comes. And you would, potentially do some thinking beforehand about what the question is or what was the work of that committee that day. And that would be kind of, a way to collect it without having somebody have to then transfer that information and remember to send it to Tracy and all those things. But Jamboard, an idea.
Thank you. I think that any tools that we could use for any meeting, that would be awesome. So thank you. Yes.
I see Commissioner Meyer. I can see more pictures now, so I'm better.
Great. So I'm really just kind of stuck thinking about the simultaneous meetings idea. It seems like it would be fairly burdensome. One of the things I'm concerned about is like if you add up all of the commissioners plus all of the community members who are or could be a part of these different committees, it's one thing to find a date that like 4 or 5 people can meet. It's another thing to find a date that like 25 people can meet. And it seems like it would just inevitably mean that some people would not be able to be there. And that's a concern that I have when I'm thinking about the like 2 to 4 consistent community members that have been a part of the Vulnerable Communities Committee. And then one of the other things I want to ask is like thinking about like what participation will be like and all of that. I know we have 3 active committees. I'm the only commissioner in my committee. Like, how many commissioners are currently active in a committee? Because if it'd surprise me if there's like 5 in the others, but if there's like only 1 in each of the committees, then like how many commissioners are just not going to committees right now?
I haven't been going to committees since they stopped meeting, and there was the Youth and Families Committee and then the Health Committee, and I was very regular at both of those, and you know, I would love to be doing work in those areas again via some sort of committee that did those things. So because yes, I feel like those are my expertise areas. So but when, you know, we saw differing, I think we had Kelly Baroga and I were also on the Children and Youth and Families one, and then I think there were like 2 other commissioners on the Health Committee. So you know, other committees I participated in had 2 or 3 commissioners on them.
Yeah, I do think that perhaps one benefit of having simultaneous meetings is that all commissioners could just know and expect to be there. And if you like don't have a committee that you're a part of, you can be there and be a part of the like initial discussion to hear what's going on in the committees, and then just join a committee for the day or something, and it might help get more active participation. But I also think that whatever proposal we take is going to be like a conscious reset, and that would also really help engage commissioners and make sure that there's something for commissioners to engage.
So Commissioner Meyer, to address some of your concerns in terms of the conversations that the committee for restructuring had. So some of the considerations were about participation from commissioners, recognizing that, you know, part of the thinking behind having all committees meeting on the same date of the public meeting was so we could have the participation of commissioners according to their interests. So let's say, for instance, that in September, we identify 3 specific areas of work, right? And we create ad hoc committees to work between September and the end of session on those 3 areas. So you will potentially have 5 commissioners per area, you know, on each one of the 3 committees that we set up, meeting every other month to address those areas, right? So you will have 5 commissioners per meeting. Well, you can have different configurations, right? But you would have more than 1 commissioner per committee, and engage during the time that they already have for the meeting. We recognize that it'll be a little bit more difficult for community members, and at the same time, having a schedule of public meetings means that people can potentially take the time for the committee meeting to join in either remotely or in person. The other thing that we have to say, and this is not clear quite yet because we don't have the final guidelines, but one potential opportunity for engagement from the community is that those community members that are not commissioners might also qualify for the stipends that the legislature approved this year, because they are they bring their lived experience. Now, I say might because we are still waiting for the final guidelines from the Office of the Governor on how they would be compensated and what qualifications and all that. But as we read, the preliminary reading of the law is that they would be also, they would also qualify, and that might lessen the burden on community members as well as commissioners. So.
Manny, can I just speak to that? I've been part of the implementation group for that. That was a piece of legislation I sponsored for compensation for lived experience. So, and right now it'll go into effect on July 1. And really it's this, working with Office of Equity is really creating the pathway, working with the Office of Financial Management, because we also don't want to create a barrier and expect one to go through some kind of reimbursement process, which we know is not an expeditious way of getting dollars, especially if you're challenged anyway. And so with oftentimes those with lived experience have less access to resource. And so want to make sure that's not a barrier. But that very much, that will begin, and that it may not be aligned between agencies. There is a dollar amount and such, and then we will collect that information, but really looking forward to being able to offer that, because that is the difference of voice. And even members, if we are, if you're class 1 group, even members in the commission as members, if it is something that keeps someone from being part of that group, will no longer. So really looking forward to how it increases voice and representation, not just on our commissions, but on all commissions and work groups as we, think forward and move forward. So excited about that.
And also that none of the options will be perfect, right? Regardless
we have to try a number of ways of doing it in order, and that's why what this is permissive language in this legislation, and then the process is really the procedures and what happens within the agency. But it is not meant to be barriered. It's meant to be low barrier, low access. It's not, and it's also meant not to impact state, any kind of state investments or benefits that you may receive. And so again, it's not meant to do this and then to take away that. So as much as we've opened doors, we've done that, and we'll learn and then keep moving forward. Thanks.
So as chair, I need to step in here and just say that any voices that haven't had a chance, or any commissioners who haven't spoken, please feel free to speak up. Also, that we as a commission are indeed, well, a kind of refreshing take, rather than set up committees and just go with them, watch them die and leave them. We are trying these different things. So in a few minutes, if we can finish our discussion, we will take the poll and see where we stand. But recall, we are the commission and we can continue to make decisions. So we're scheduled to take a break in about 7 or 8 minutes. We would like to take the poll if it's working for everyone, but is there any other voice for this discussion at this point? Anybody at all? Just how's it feel to you?
We have 2 folks with their hands raised.
Okay, let's see, Commissioner Kelly Baroga and
we have Commissioner Maroon and Commissioner Hillmeyer with their hands raised, and Commissioner Best.
Okay.
I'm not sure who went first.
Well, we'd like to hear voices that haven't spoken yet. So I believe Commissioner Best, have they not spoken yet? Why don't you go ahead then, Commissioner?
Hi, can you guys hear me? I'm just not too sure, because since I'm new at this and haven't been really to a committee yet, and I just want to, I don't know which option to pick is good, but listening to all of you guys on this discussion has helped a little bit, but I just don't know which option is best for the whole commission. So I'm having a hard time selecting from 1 to 3. So since I haven't really participated, so I just don't want to be the first on the poll to say which number, because I'd rather go with the majority on this. Just being honest with you, because the commissioners that have committees, I really respect their voice on this. So I kind of want to defer to them for a decision on which one to pick. So that was just my input. Thanks.
Thank you. I can now see Commissioner Molina. I think you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Thinking about these proposals, I'm really leaning towards proposal 1 and proposal 2 because I love the idea of like having all the committees meet all at once at the same day at the same time. And I'm leaning towards these proposals because of my own experience within the commission and entering the commission. The first few months have been very like the word I would describe to be very ambiguous. Like it's so confusing to understand what committees are working and how to be a part of committees and if we need to receive like a formal invitation and just it's been kind of a little bit confusing on like how I can like bring the skills that I have to the work of the commission. So I love proposal 1 and 2 because it offers like the committees that are active to be present, and then that way new commissioners can see the committees and then assign themselves as they see fit. The only like hiccup that I see was like the note taking. And like I have an answer to that too. I feel like we could use live transcription apps to record the committee meetings. And with that, we can just like make sure to like do housekeeping rules and make sure that committee members are first stating their name and then speaking. So then that way, whoever wants to take the notes after the transcriptions, they can identify who is speaking what. But yeah, so I definitely am leaning towards proposal 1 and 2, mostly proposal 1, but I'm just a little biased.
Thank you, Commissioner. And unless there's someone else who hasn't spoken who wants to speak, I think Commissioner Tobey-Meyer and Commissioner Maroon both wanted to speak. I don't know who was first. Commissioner Meyer, why don't you go ahead?
I'll just say with the raise hand function, the person in the upper left corner is the one who went first. So I'll defer to Commissioner Maroon.
Thank you.
I never mind deferring to you, Toby. No worries. Well, okay, I have 2 questions, not comments. One is, I see this special meeting in June thing here. Do we know a date for a special meeting in June, or are we deciding that later in this meeting today?
We were hoping to have that special meeting as part of the mini retreat that we talked about on June 6th. So
Okay.
since the agenda was created before we learn about the final date for the flag raising, the date might need to change. We can host a special meeting to discuss a specific issue at any time that the executive committee or the commissioners request one.
Okay, I'm out of the country from June 22nd on. That's all. My question is, if proposal number 1, which I like, is going to have a day-long meeting every other month, why do we need, what if we had tracks? What if we had 1 or 2 tracks during that day-long meeting for committee meetings so that commissioners would have slightly more options to attend more than 1 committee? If there were, 10 to 11 a.m. and a 2 to 3 p.m. or something like that, you could divide the number of committees that you have over 2 separate moments of the day. And if there were people who could, it would give the members of the public a little bit more flexibility also, depending on, their schedule perhaps. So I guess part of my hang up is that, like I said earlier, that kind of devil's in the details here. And there's not quite enough in here for me to understand how we would make this happen just based on this vote on this language here today.
Because the reason why it's a little bit weird is because this is the framework, and the operating of how that is implemented, it will be the next step, right? So yes, the idea that you shared, Commissioner Maroon, makes total sense. And I actually suggest that we bring that up to the executive committee and explore how to implement that if that is the option that you all pick today, right? The first option. So what you're considering today is the framework, and the actual operating and implementation will be then, fleshed out in collaboration between the executive committee and you as a commission at a special meeting, where then the actual operating of the framework will be adopted.
Very good point. Commissioner Hillmeyer, and do check the chat. We are having comments in chat as well.
Great, thank you. So I've got a couple of things that I've had bubble up that I think might be helpful. So first, about live transcription, I just want to toss out a potential thing to be aware and concerned of. I don't know if that would count as a public record, or if it might be like transient notes that can be discarded after they have been turned into minutes. And I would be concerned about creating a word for word transcript of what everybody says as a part of the public record. And there definitely might be moments where that would make people stop and think longer about what they're actually going to say. But then I also wanted to say, with the potential stipends for committee members, I think that could also be a significant game changer in this process. I know that I've invited a lot of community members to be a part of my committee, and the only ones who have stuck around are white, and most of them are cis. And the trans people of color who I've invited, some have specifically said that they can't do it without a stipend. So one thing I would really like to go with an option that would allow the existing committees to continue at least for 3 to 6 months after having that new stipend set up, because as soon as I know the details of what that stipend might entail, there's some people I would like to reach out to and recruit and see. And I think that their participation could create a significant benefit for moving forward the work of the Vulnerable Communities Committee. And so at least having enough time to kind of give that a chance to work and see how that operates for us would be really helpful. And I'll also say I am kind of coming around on the idea of having all the committees meet at 1 or maybe 2 times, especially because I'm realizing that would mean we would all be in a lobby together, and we might even take 10 or 15 minutes together before we split into our committees. And that could be especially valuable for the community members who are a part of the committee. I know that the community members on my committee have met 1 or 2 commissioners, and getting a sense of the rest of the commission and the work that the rest of the commission is doing is going to be really helpful for finding ways to cross and plug into each other's work. And that also, it could mean for committee members or commissioners that having a short update, just overview, this is what we're going to talk about once we break out, might help folks go, oh, hey, I want to actually be a part of that conversation, and be able to get a lot more involved.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to say, with that, I'd really kind of lean towards either proposal 1 or a variation of proposal 2, where we maintain the existing committees.
Thank you so much. I see staff has a hand up, and then we'll go to a poll and our vote. Yes, Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to note for Commissioner Hillmeyer that any transcript that we do take, as long as it gets turned into minutes, can be transitory. Because particularly because it is not technically an open meeting. And so it doesn't fall under the Open Meetings Act because we're not making decisions, just because our minutes are just notes on what we discussed, and it doesn't need to be detailed in the way of saying who said what, and it just needs to note what we discussed.
Thank you. Is there a poll ready for us to?
Yes, there is a poll. Let me pull that up here.
Just remember, we're polling you on, and you can go ahead, Tracy, but we're polling you on your preference. If there's language that needs to be revisited that you want to add or extract or whatnot, after we identify which proposal the commission wants, then we can work on the language that will be approved. Okay, so even if you are concerned with a word or two of the proposal, pick the one that you're leaning towards, and then we can work on the final language of that proposal after we know which one you all prefer.
And as soon as we get a chance to take a look at that poll, it will guide it.
All commissioners have voted, Tracy.
Okay, I was just going to say, I believe all commissioners have voted. So we have 100% for proposal 1. So then we can move forward with that knowledge.
So let us do so. Thank you all for discussion and vote. 100% of that first one, we will need a motion to accept it, and then we will take our break. And then Commissioner Kelly Baroga is going to join me and lead us through the second half of our meeting. All right, so may we have a motion to accept proposal 1?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, this is Commissioner Kelly Baroga.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, let's, staff, if you would, call the roll call for the vote.
Okay.
Oh, and vote A, yes, if you're going for it, and nay if you're opposed.
Commissioner Best?
Aye.
Commissioner Hillmeyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Landers?
Aye.
Commissioner Maroon?
Aye.
Commissioner Molina?
Aye.
Secretary Figueroa?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kelly Baroga?
Aye.
And Co-Chair Botzer?
Aye. The motion passes. Thanks, everybody. 10-minute break here, and in exactly 10 minutes, please check for sure. We'll come back and take the next steps of our meeting. Thank you, everyone, for the good discussion.
Remember that we are still broadcasting live, so please watch your cameras and mics. That's all.
All right.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to proceed to our next part of the meeting, but first I think Tracy has something to cover real quick.
Just unmuting. Yes, I just wanted to do a quick housekeeping announcement to correct our roll call to show that co-chair Vienna is excused today.
Awesome, thank you. For our next chunk of time, we will go over some new business. It'll first be a discussion and then we'll vote. And then the next part would be going over the public meeting requirements. There's updates that we met as executive committee and we're going to share those with you. And then we'll proceed to if anyone has any other comments and then public comments. So for the first 3 years of the commission, the staff have been representing the commission, various work groups and task forces. And I think we're at the point where we are able, and we are in a spot that we are able to do this more formally. So we'll have a discussion first about what are folks' thoughts about how to create a process to appoint folks to different task force and seats. And then after that, we'll vote. Does anyone have any initial ideas about how we can go forward with appointing people, or maybe for people to volunteer to sit at certain committees, work groups?
Vice Chair Kelly Barroga, if I can say one thing about the process.
Yes.
One of the reasons why we wanted to include this as a conversation is because I think that we need to be collaborative, right? We can rely on the commission staff, myself, appointing people or just going to a specific person, but we are talking about, legislation that names the LGBTQ commission as an integral part of a work group or a task force or something like that. And from my perspective, even though technically we can make the appointment, the truth is that we have modeled a new way of doing things in government or a different way, a more collaborative way. And I think that it would be best to have the backing of the commission whenever someone from the commission is appointed to a specific work group. That doesn't mean that every commissioner will be appointed to every single task force or work group that we are named in. But we're talking about, there are instances where the skill set doesn't live here in me or in Tracy, and perhaps one of you will be best to represent the interests of the community on a specific task force or work group. So that's the reason why we're bringing this up to you, because we want to make sure that whatever process you feel more comfortable with is something that comes out of collaboration and not just, bureaucracy of who has the quote unquote authority to do something. So that's the thinking behind all this.
I guess I can share a little more based on our conversation prior to the public meeting. Like Manny said, there are instances where you might not be a right fit for a certain thing. And so if you'll see on your agenda, it says appointment of commissioner to Washington State's America 250 committee. So if one person feels like they're not able to attend that or be representative, we do have the options and actually the other people around us to send someone else to that. And so that's what I was thinking too, is maybe we can create in our process that people have the opportunity to, one, volunteer, and two, turn down the invitation to be on a certain committee. Anyone else?
I just ask what America 250 is? I might just be the only one that doesn't know, but just for me, which has nothing to do with the discussion, if you will, on the appointment, but just curious if anybody else might be too. If not, tell me to be quiet. What is America 250?
Yeah, I'll share real quick. And this is just the committee that we're considering today. So as I shared with the executive committee, the idea is just to have a process. And since we have this committee that we have been named, we can start with that one. So it's a combined conversation, right? Like one is, how do we want to do appointments? And then the second one is, by the way, if there's this committee that we can make an appointment today on. So America 250 is the federal celebration of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence and the establishment of the United States as a country separate from the UK. So every state has a state committee that was created as a response to a call by the federal government. So every state and every possession has a committee, a state or Commonwealth or local committee for the state or the possession. So the LGBTQ Commission was named as one of the components of the Washington committee. The committee is co-chaired between the Lieutenant Governor and the director of the Washington Historical Society. They are the named individuals as co-chairs of the committee, and they do have the committee has a representative from the federal government that is assigned to the Western states. Washington is the first Western state with an established committee, and it was passed by resolution of the legislature, a concurrent resolution, because kind of one of these, automatic things that happen in legislature. So that's the background for that particular committee. We are named as part of the committee, so that's why I picked this one as the first one. The meetings happen every 3 months, so quarterly, and the work is between this year and 2026. But that doesn't mean that the person assigned will serve, right? Every year there will be someone from the commission serving on that committee. So it's not a 6-year commitment. It's just, for this year, who will be representing the commission, and then next year we'll revisit that and other committees where the commission has presence. So I hope that clarifies this particular committee. Yeah.
So I will continue the first part. I think the America 250 should be part 2, right? As Manny said. So I think my idea and my belief for the commission and the commissioners that signed up to serve on the state commission, I think that one of the responsibilities that we should have is whenever appointments or asks are made, that we are all, I guess, open to it, right? And if someone steps up and takes an appointment, if it's on a task force or a board or a committee, whatever type of designation you want to give that group, I think that we should all, just by being a commissioner, default, be opted in to be considered. And so something I brought up in a meeting before this was, when an ask does come in, we can either decide as a commission who's best suited for it, or if we want multiple people, if there are multiple appointments, or, and this is putting burden on staff, having Manny and Tracy select someone they feel are best suited for a group. I don't know how, I know, that might ruffle some feathers there. I don't know, but I do think that as a state commissioner, you agree to serve. And I think part of that serving is being appointed to things like this. So that's just my thought behind it.
Does anyone have any thoughts on this, or maybe propose a process?
We could take nominations and self-nominations, but you want something that's more overarching than just this one thing, right? We all filled out a skills matrix once upon a time with our areas. I feel like that's still valid for us to use when trying to seat people on special task forces.
Okay. So self-nominations or nominations and then vote.
Is there a time frame that traditionally you have to name someone on a committee or commission? A wonder aloud, as I know we go through the same process internally in the Senate, and sometimes it's a very quick turnaround, other times it's not. And so just wondering if you just think about, and I don't know, Manny, whether we have a history enough yet, or Tracy, whether we have a history enough to say, when they ask, usually it's, within a week, give us a name or whatever. So just a wonder in that, the method, I guess I would, based on how long or how much time one might need to find that person. Is there?
So we haven't had any urgent, instances, and there are, we usually know when we have to be on a committee with plenty of time, because the legislature takes the vote way ahead of time. So there should be plenty of time for the commissioners to know. When the very few instances where we have been asked to be part of committees is not by legislation, it's because an agency wants us to be there, and I would prioritize those for me, right? Or Tracy, depending on who. And even with the commissions, not commissions, with the committees and work groups and whatnot that are named in legislation, it'll be a matter of, do we, does it make sense for the director to be here or for somebody else? And in addition to that, like with the America 250, what I did originally was, I'll go to the first meeting and see, is this something that, that should be done by the staff, or can we assign someone from the commission? And it was evident that anyone from the commission could be there. And the same thing happens with other work groups, where it would be more appropriate for a member of the commission to be there than the director. So it really depends, but usually we do have, from sine die to July to make an appointment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thanks.
Any other suggestions, or maybe folks are bought in with nominations? We can also move it forward if there are no other suggestions.
I'm happy to self-nominate for America 250. I do want to continue encouraging other commissioners to also, I know we're all really busy, right? But yeah, if things like this come up, I definitely encourage everyone to, I think just, be open to it and continue serving in different capacities. But yeah, I'll self-nominate as an option.
Thank you. Commissioner Best.
Well, I'm trying to do more research on the America 250. And as a Native American, I kind of disagree with what they're celebrating as America. So I just want to put my voice out there as a Native American that, celebration of the United States is kind of different for me as an aspect of my ancestors. So I just need a little more research before I even participate in that type of, I guess, what do you call it, America 250 committee. Thank you.
Commissioner Best, it was one of the reasons for why it would be a little bit difficult for me, having been raised in a US colony that is still under US occupation, to serve on that committee. And I think that is it's one of the issues that brought up, you know, the urgency for me to have this as one of the first committees where a commissioner would be best. So solidarity.
I'm putting a pin in my head that Alvaro, you're self-nominating, but I think we need to go through the proposal and voting whether or not what the process would be before we start the appointment of to the committee. Commissioner Bosser?
Yeah, I'm thinking, what do you think? This seems like a good day for proposals. So one might be that we receive some requests like this, that we offer it to all members of commission, and then some sort of statement that, you know, there's no, well, I was thinking anyone can opt out, of course, or opt in, or self-nominate, but just get into words as a small policy that directs us, so we'll know what to do each time when we receive these. Can anyone else, what do you think of that? Can you fill out the idea, perhaps? Thank you.
Co-chair Botzer, this is Commissioner Molina. I kind of have the same thinking as well, just kind of as new committees arise, we introduce the committee to the commission and we kind of just lay out what the committee will be doing. And then we'd open for people or commissioners to opt in to serve on the committee. And if folks don't opt in, then maybe we can nominate people who we think would be best to serve on the committee. Yeah, because I feel like it'd just be really great just to like first introduce a committee and then for all of us just to get some history and like some of the work that we'll be doing within the committee before we just jump into a committee blind.
Thank you for those suggestions. Anyone else?
So Vice Chair Kelly Barroga, sorry. I put the ideas into a motion form if the commission wants to hear a preliminary proposal of a possible motion.
Please do.
Hearing, and my apologies because I was writing as Commissioner Molina and as Commissioner Figueroa were talking, so might not be completely grammatically correct, but we can fix that. But it would be something that said, upon request of LGBTQ commission representation on a committee or work group, the opportunity will be presented to the plenary of the commission for consideration to receive nominations for appointments, something like that. I just try to capture all of the ideas into one process.
Does anyone have any additions, amendments, or would anyone like to move that forward?
Manny, can you repeat that?
Yes, I can, I think. Upon request of LGBTQ commission representation on a committee or work group, the opportunity will be presented to the plenary of the commission, so to all of you in public meeting, for consideration to receive nominations for appointments. So, as I said, not necessarily grammatically correct, but I wanted to capture the whole process. So basically, once that the commission is approached with an opportunity, that opportunity will be presented to you all with the background on all that, so you can nominate and select the representative from the commission to that committee. That was the idea.
So moved.
Seconded.
That was Commissioner Hillmeyer for the movement, and then
Yes.
Commissioner Landers for second.
And I'll fix the grammar for the minutes.
Manny, can you repeat it one more time as we do our vote?
Commissioner Best has his hand up.
Yes, Commissioner Best.
So is this for all appointments, for not committees, but other appointments, or is this just for the America 250?
For all appointments.
Okay, thank you.
So the text would be something along, upon request of LGBTQ commission representation in a committee or work group, upon request of LGBTQ commission representation on a committee or work group, the opportunity will be presented to the plenary of the commission for consideration and to receive nominations for appointment.
Thank you. So yay to adapt and nay to go back to the drawing board. Tracy.
Sorry, my mouse was uncooperative. So Commissioner Best,
Aye.
Commissioner Hillmeyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Landers,
Aye.
Commissioner Maroon,
Has to step down for a second.
oh, okay. Commissioner Molina,
Aye.
Secretary Figueroa,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kelly Baroga,
Aye.
Co-Chair Botzer.
Aye.
Okay, and that is unanimous.
Thank you. So now we can move on to nominations, and we have a self-nomination from Commissioner Figueroa. Would anyone else like to nominate or self-nominate? Manny, do we vote on this too?
It's only one person that volunteered. I don't think we need to, unless someone really oppose Alvaro being our representative there.
Right, I don't think anyone is opposed. Correct me if I'm wrong. All right. Great. Tracy, then that means Commissioner Figueroa will be appointed to that chair. And then now we'll move on. Tracy, if you're ready, we'll move on to the public meeting requirements, and if you would please go over the details of what the information we received from AAG.
Okay, I believe that Manny was going to go over that.
Yeah, and Tracy can just jump in with more information or clarification, as well as the executive committee. So Tracy, if you can stop sharing the screen so we can have a conversation. So I shared with you all the link to the updated requirements for public meetings and to comply with with the Public Meeting Act. The act was updated this year in light of some of the executive actions that the governor took during the early time of the pandemic. During the pandemic, some of the executive orders allowed for us to be more flexible with the requirements of the Public Meetings Act in order to make it easier for us to continue doing the work, right? And to engage the community and engage the different commissions and boards and all that. As a result of that, obviously some things had to be tweaked and changed and updated to reflect the reality of today's world while at the same time making sure that the public for whom we work was present and part of the democratic process of, governing. So because of that, the act received a little bit of tweaking. I did share the details with you through that link, so you can go there for the details. But I wanted to give you a broad view of some of the most important changes. The most important change that took us by surprise a little bit, and we were trying to figure out how to comply with, is that the public meetings must have a physical location where the public can go to attend the meeting. So that must was important and was challenging for us, because we know that having virtual meetings is very accessible and preferable, especially in today's circumstances. However, when we met with the Attorney General, the interpretation to that is that as long as the commission that is meeting, or the meeting that is happening, has a physical location where people can gather to witness the meeting, we are complying. We have a conference room at the office of the commission where Tracy will be available, as she is today. So once that this takes place on July 1st, we will be able to give that as the address, the physical address where the interested public can gather to see the commission. So the other, Tracy, thank you for the update on the date. She confirmed that it's June 1st, not July 1st. Our next meeting is not until July, so it doesn't matter much. But so we do have the physical space, and the other part of this that's very important for us to understand is that the public must be able to watch the proceedings, to witness the proceedings of any public meeting. And we are already complying with that, because we already published this on YouTube live. And people can actually watch what is happening. That is also possible once that we have physical meetings, because the room where we are is set up to have cameras and to be able to broadcast live. So we are going to be complying. We might have more in-person meetings, which I know that we have been looking forward for a long time. We will have, when we have a physical location that the commissioners are invited to come in, we still have the ability to have the commissioners sign on a Zoom meeting to attend the meeting as well. And that constitutes quorum. So that was another question that we had, if we had to have a physical location and people cannot travel, can they call in? Would that be compliant and all that? And yes, we can have a physical location where we call the commissioners to gather physically, and the commissioners that cannot travel to the location but want to attend the meeting will be able to attend virtually. Excuse me, and that would qualify as complying with the law. So that's kind of the the broad overview of this. Oh, the other part that is very important is that as of now, every commission meeting must have a time for public comments. That doesn't mean that the public will submit comments, but every agenda must carve time to allow the public to address the meeting. So, and we have been complying with that. I think that there was only one instance where we made the decision not to have public comments, and that was prior to these new regulations taking place. So we have always been in compliance, and we will continue. So so those were the three main points that we were a little bit concerned about with the new changes, and we are able to comply with each and every one of them. But we are open to have your questions or concerns and to clarify anything else. but in general, those were the three main concerns that we discussed with the Attorney General and that we got clarification on. Any questions? Well, you've been easy today.
Any other comments, questions about our new business and our information that we just received?
I would just say it sounds really straightforward, and some of that is, you know, a little bit complicated to do, but you're doing it, you're handling it, and it's just good to be updated and know that what new restrictions we're under.
We were a little bit concerned, right? Because it's like, how do we manage this and all that? And thankfully, we do have the equipment right now. We do know of other agencies and spaces that don't have the same ability to, you know, to have cameras and phones and things like that on their conference rooms. So we are grateful that when we made the move to the new space, we thought of all that ahead of time, even before we knew that we were going to need it. So.
Yeah.
All right, if no one has any more comments, we can move on to public comments. Do we have any that came in?
We did not receive any public comments in writing. Oh, that was another thing. If we do receive public comments in writing, we do not have to read them. We just have to distribute them to the commissioners and acknowledge that we have received them. But for this meeting, we didn't receive any, and nobody signed up to share anything.
I guess I have a clarifying question. So what we've been doing previously works, right? Like people are
Yes.
available to
Yes.
the email or okay. Okay, that concludes that part of our meeting. Anyone have any announcements? I keep saying this. Any other comments, questions, announcements?
July 21st, the celebration, 12:15. If you are planning on coming to the flag raising ceremony, please let Tracy know so we can help you with travel arrangements if you need them, or make sure that you have all that is needed to be reimbursed. We know that for the first meeting, we had some challenges in getting people reimbursed. We have clarified every single step of the process, and now I am being reimbursed for my expenses. So I know that you will be too, because I was going through the same process. So thank you, Tracy, for figuring that out. It was more complicated than I thought it was, or that it needed to be. But now we have the tools to make sure that you're compensated, reimbursed for the expenses to travel. So if you're planning on coming to the Capitol campus on June 21st for the flag raising ceremony, please let Tracy know, and we will make sure that you are reimbursed for the expenses. And then the other announcement that I have is we have been publishing, and with the newsletter, the Pride events throughout the state. So if you notice that, if you know of a Pride event that is not there, please fill out the form that is attached to the announcement. We want to make sure that people know where they can go to celebrate. And don't send an email. Fill out the form, because that keeps it all in one place. Or invite people to fill out the form. And the other thing is that with that, we have been announcing it, and as we publish it, more people are submitting. But keep in mind that this is for community celebration. So if it's an event that has cost, a fee, unless it's a fee that is voluntary, or like I know that Take Black Pride, for instance, is a voluntary fee, that is fine. But if it's a ticket that people need, that is a commercial event, regardless of who's putting it together. That's different. That would not be published. We want to publish things that are accessible to the people. That means if there's a donation is accessible because people make the choice on how much to give, and it's not, it's a voluntary thing. If it's a ticketed event, that's not going to be published. And the other couple of things to keep in mind with those events is that we're not going to be publishing political or partisan Pride events. So it's fine if there's one, and if you want to go, great. If you want to let me know, that's great if they're in Tacoma, but for purposes of the commission, no. And also religious events. I know that many faith communities do celebrate Pride and Affirm, but we firmly believe in the separation of church and state, so religious events will not be posted either. Social events, community events, they would be considered for publication if they don't have a ticketed price, but everything else, no. So just want to clarify for when you invite people to put their events. And it doesn't have to be the big event. So if your agency is having like a potluck, Pride, something, and you want to invite the community, please let us know. Sorry, it took a long time for all those announcements, but
Anyone else?
final thing.
Would
Sorry,
anyone-
I keep. Let's celebrate Tracy because she finished her certification on diversity, equity, and inclusion certification with Cornell University. And now she's a professional, DEI professional, certified professional. That's the word, yeah.
Thank you for the reminder. I'm in the office so I can print my certificate.
And I believe that Commissioner Molina has a graduation coming up. True?
Yeah, that's right. I'm graduating with my master's in education policy, so I'm super excited.
Congratulations also. I was speaking Spanglish. Congratulations también.
This is great. We should always have, notices of these great achievements for ourselves here at the end, maybe. Yeah, I like it.
Would anyone like to make a movement to adjourn today?
Commissioner Bessa, motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Okay, then here's roll call or the vote. Commissioner Best.
Aye.
Commissioner Hillmeyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Landers.
Aye.
Commissioner Molina.
Aye.
Secretary Figueroa.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kelly Baroga.
Aye.
Co-Chair Botzer.
Hi.
Okay, passes unanimous.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Hey.
We're adjourned.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
And if the executive committee can stay for just 2 minutes. Yeah.
And let me close the YouTube